Greetings and salutations. Thank you for lending an ear to The Voice of the Times this Tuesday, December 29, 2020. For today's editorial, Unliquidated 2.35 billion pesos reveals the worm in SEA Games Apple. A full year has now passed since the country hosted the 30th Southeast Asian Games, or SEAG, from December 1 to 12, 2019. But up to now, the private sector and public officials who took principal charge of the event have failed to account for their handling of billions of pesos of public money and private sector sponsorships that were utilized to finance the undertaking. The surest sign that irregularities or fraud occurred in the management and organization of the Games is the abject failure of officials to liquidate huge fund releases from the government and submit a financial report on the SEAG. The other day, the Commission on Audit, or COA, reported that some 2.35 billion pesos, which the Philippine Sports Commission, or PSC, released to the Philippine Southeast Asian Games Organizing Committee, or PHISGOC, and the Philippine Olympic Committee, or POC, for the holding of the SEAG, has remained unliquidated. Of this amount, 1.81 billion pesos was released to the PHISGOC, and 535.41 million pesos was given to the POC, said COA in its audit report on the PSC for 2019. And yet, PHISGOC and POC were under mandate to submit its fund utilization reports within 60 days after the Games ended on December 12 last year. The officials concerned have not even offered a self-serving explanation of their dereliction of duty. This concerns only fund releases from the PSC for the Games. It does not include the billions expended for the highly expensive construction of sports facilities at New Clark City, which is another matter for COA examination and audit. State auditors have questioned the Basis Conversion and Development Authority, or BCDA, for approving an 8.51 billion pesos sports facilities project that they said was prejudicial to the interest of the government. The COA said a private contractor which won the contract to develop the facilities at the National Government Administrative Center in New Clark City had been given undue advantage. And then there is the funding of over 1 billion pesos from private sponsorships of the event, which evidently went directly to PHISGOC and must similarly be accounted for. At the conclusion of the Games last year, the Ombudsman made noise about conducting a thorough inquiry into the financing and conduct of the SEAG. He mobilized a group to do the fact-finding. But up to now, the Ombudsman's office has made no report on its inquiry. Instead of exposing irregularity, the Anti-Graft Office seems to be unwittingly covering up the SEAG mess instead. Ombudsman Samuel Reyes-Martirez should explain. Similarly, we take note that last month, the POC held the quadrennial election of its board and officers. In the election, the same POC officials who held sway during the SEAG were elected anew to key positions in the committee. In the run-up to the election, there was a flurry of accusations of mismanagement and corruption, but nothing came of the attempt to clean house. Sadly, the 30th SEAG has become emblematic of how Philippine sports has been infiltrated and corrupted by politics, and how sleazy political practices in Congress were deployed in sports management. Every attempt to investigate the Games has so far turned out to be a travesty. The grafters are doubtless laughing at these attempts to establish SEAG accountability, especially at the Ombudsman's non-inquiry. This impudence must be frontally confronted. PHISGOC and POC officials should be forced out into the open and ordered to explain. The COA must not relent in its scrutinizing of the finances of the Games and impose the appropriate penalties. And that's the editorial for Tuesday, December 29, 2020. For more news and information, get a copy of the Manila Times on print, subscribe to our digital edition, or log on to www.manilatimes.net. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and listen to The Voice of the Times.